Good day. Here are today's top stories from the Pna Headlines. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. continues his state visit in India, where he secured commitments to improve cooperation in trade, defense, and health sectors. These include fast-tracking bilateral trade deals, strengthening military cooperation, and adopting best practices in healthcare. Marita Moahe has the story.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has announced advancements in trade and defense relations following high-level talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This as the Philippines and India, who are celebrating their 75 years of diplomatic relations, have officially elevated their ties into a strategic partnership. In a joint press statement at Hyderabad House in New Delhi, the president said the two countries will fast-track the creation of a bilateral preferential trade agreement. He also said they will look into opportunities to boost two-way investments. Marcos said the two countries will collaborate on supply chain resilience, food security, countering terrorism, and other traditional and non-traditional threats. President Marcos also said the Philippines and India will pave the way to strengthen interoperability between their naval and coast guard forces. The newly launched strategic partnership includes 3 agreements that aim to institutionalize regular military-to-military dialogue and cooperation. Marcos welcomed India's growing presence in the defense sector, citing the Philippines' purchase of its BrahMos missile system in 2022. He also hailed India's support in ensuring peace, stability, and cooperation in a rules-based Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, President Marcos Jr. and Shri Jagat Prakash Nada, Bharatiya Janata Party Chair and Minister of Health and Family Welfare, met at the Taj Mahal Hotel to discuss stronger cooperation in the health sector. The meeting included India's proposal for the exchange of best practices that could be implemented in the Philippine health system. Health Secretary Teodoro Herbosa said they discussed the capability of India's healthcare system to cover about 600 million of its population. He also noted India's use of ASHA workers or accredited social health activists who are similar to Filipino barangay health workers. Also discussed were the growing number of Indian medical students in the Philippines and India's interest in the Philippines' cost-effective and high-quality liver transplant services. Meanwhile, Herbosa handed Nada a copy of a Memorandum of Understanding between India's National Institute of Ayurveda and the Philippine Institute of Traditional and Alternative Healthcare. For the Pna Headlines, I am Marita Moahe.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered the suspension of all rice importation beginning September 1st, 2025. Presidential Communications Office Secretary Dave Gomez on Wednesday said the president issued the directive after consulting with cabinet members on the sidelines of his 5-day state visit to India and upon the recommendation of Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel Jr. In a separate interview, Agriculture spokesperson Arnel de Mesa thanked President Marcos Jr. for the 60-day suspension of rice imports. He said the move will protect local farmers during the upcoming wet harvest season and help them recover and secure a reasonable income. Meanwhile, Marcos said it is not yet time to discuss whether to increase tariffs on imported rice. Earlier, Tiu Laurel said the sudden drop in rice prices amid a high yield in harvest led the president to consider the import suspension and the proposed tariff increase. The tariff hike aims to protect the income of farmers and help improve production and keep prices competitive.
It's a welcome reprieve para sa ating mga magsasaka ng palay, lalo na timing kasi yon for the harvest season ngayong darating na mid-August. So yung peak kasi is September to October. So very timely at nagpapasalamat tayo sa maagap na pagtugon ng ating Pangulo sa rekomendasyon ng Kagawaran para ipatigil pansamantala ang importasyon para makabawi naman yung ating mga magsasaka.
And in other news, the Department of Energy, or DOE, has ordered generation firms in Visayas and Mindanao to immediately restore their facilities and stabilize power supply in both regions. The Visayas grid was placed under yellow alert from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday for the third time this month. The DOE said 14 generation facilities in the Visayas are on forced outage, while 5 others are on derated capacities. 11 power plants in Mindanao are also on forced outage, and 3 others are on derated capacities. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin has tasked Undersecretary Mario Marasigan to work closely with all affected generation companies and establish timelines for the full return to service of these plants. The DOE also called on private distribution utilities to prepare for the activation of the Interruptible Load Program. The program tasks customers with generation capacities to temporarily rely on their capacities to lessen pressure on the power grid. It is also urging the public and industrial and commercial establishments to help save and regulate energy usage during peak hours. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has signed Republic Act 12230, declaring an area in Ilocos Norte as the Paoay Lake Protected Landscape for better management and appropriate funding. The President inked the new law on August 4, noting that the declaration of the Paoay Lake Protected Landscape was in recognition of the richness of biological resources as well as the aesthetic and its ecological importance. The law also highlighted the state's policy to secure the perpetual existence of all native plants and animals for present and future generations through the Declaration of Protected Areas under the National Integrated Protected Area System, or NIPAS. With the signing, a Protected Area Management Board, or PAMB, will be created to be composed of the DENR's Regional Executive Director, Provincial Governor, Senators who are registered residents of Ilocos Norte, representatives of the Congressional District where the Paoay Lake Protected Landscape is located, Paoay mayors, among others. The PAMB duties include overseeing the management of Paoay Lake Protected Landscape, approving policies, plans, and programs for areas management, and accepting and harmonizing a management plan with the Ancestral Domain, Sustainable Development, and Protection Plan. A Protected Area Management Office will also be established to supervise daily management, protection, and administration of the protected landscape. In our business news, the Department of Agriculture, or DA, on Tuesday said that the supply and prices of retail rice are expected to remain stable despite proposals to impose a tariff hike on imported rice and a halt to rice imports. This came after the DA requested the gradual reversion of tariffs on imported rice to 25% from the current 15%, as well as the temporary ban on rice imports for 60 days starting next month. In an interview, DA spokesperson Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa said this action will not pose a significant effect due to the country's current rice volume and the upcoming harvest. According to Philippine Statistics Authority, the country's total rice stock is on a 4-year high at 2.815 million metric tons, consisted of over 1.3 million metric tons in commercial stock, 1 million in household stock, and over 447,000 metric tons with the National Food Authority, or NFA. De Mesa assured that the current rice inventory plus the upcoming palay harvest will be enough to meet the country's requirement of 35,000 metric tons per day. Meanwhile, the turnaround of domestic inflation's rate in July at 0.9% made monetary authorities' projection of below-average inflation rate for the year. Based on Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA report, the latest inflation is a reversal from the 1.4% last June and brought the 7-month average to 1.7%, which is below the 2.4% of the government. In a statement, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, said the latest inflation figure is within its 0.5 to 1.3% forecast for July. BSP added that the inflation is projected to average below the lower end of the target in 2025 due to continued easing of rice prices. National statistician Claire Dennis Mapa said that the rice inflation has been on the downtrend since August last year. The rice inflation also drove the annual slowdown in the food index last July after it registered a 15.9% decline from a 14.3% drop last June as per PSA data. However, BSP stated that there is an emerging risks to inflation due to rising geopolitical tensions and external policy uncertainty. The agency assured to safeguard price stability while ensuring the monetary policy settings are conducive to sustainable economic growth and employment. And those are the latest and the biggest stories from the Pna Headlines. For more news updates, visit our website pna.gov.ph or our Facebook and X account, Philippine News Agency. You may also watch the Pna Headlines through the Philippine News Agency's YouTube account and via the News and Information Bureau website under PNA News. I am William Theo. This is the Pna Headlines, bringing you stories that unite the nation.